The transfer portal is officially open, and the Ragin Cajuns are dabbling right in the mix of it. Let's talk about it here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another episode here on Ragin Rundown. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you know you can always call me Fitz. If this is your first time watching the YouTube channel, hit the bell down below and subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time listening, please follow the podcast feed wherever you get podcasts from so you know when we're dropping an episode here on Ragin Rundown. And in today's episode, it's something that a lot of people have been DMing me, commenting under my post on social media, asking, well, who's UL going to be targeting? And finally, I have a few answers, and I have a few names of players and guys that you can be able to look out for, and we're going to dabble all into that. So the first thing that I want to do is to lay out the landscape of the current roster that UL has as of now. They have 7 players that have entered the transfer portal. We've talked about the running back room. You can go and watch that in a previous episode that I had. I believe that was the first one that we dropped here on the channel. You have Bill Davis in the portal, who's been, visiting the likes of Virginia Tech, and he's set to visit other schools, Power 4 schools along the way. Zylan Perry is also in the portal. He's currently on a visit at Cincinnati. And then there's Hutch Swilly. You lost Brian Williams, an offensive tackle, to the transfer portal. He is on a visit at Florida State, and it all signs from the crystal ball that I saw on 24/7 Sports, all signs are pointing to him committing there. You've lost Trey Fight, and he is also on a visit as well to Arizona State. So you lose him at the outside linebacker edge position, or the jack is what they call it in their defensive scheme. So you got 3 running backs, offensive tackle, Drennan Trey Fight. You have your long snapper that you lost as well. And then recently, Lorenzo DuBose also put his name into the transfer portal the day that it officially opened. And for him, it makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. He started the season as your starting cornerback. He came into UL as the number 18 player in the state of Louisiana in 2022. And he redshirted his first season, sat behind some guys the first couple seasons, and then he gets an opportunity to finally start. But then after 2 or 3 games in the season, Brent Gordon Jr. takes the starting role as a true freshman and never gives it back. So essentially, this is about getting the opportunity to go somewhere and be the starter. He had an offer from McNeese. That was the last that I was able to see. So that is the lay of the land of what your current roster is as of now. Also, your former general manager, now Reed Stringer, has decided to move back to Southern Miss. And so there was a position that needed to be filled. And instead of it being, hired as just a general manager, the director of player personnel, the Cajuns promoted from within, according to Kevin Foote and his recent article that he did talking with head coach Michael Desimo. And it was mentioned that Caden Minton, who has been the quarterback's coach this past season, a very young guy, a Morgan City native, so he's a local guy, has been promoted to director of player personnel. So he is more so moving away from the on the field side of things and more so focused on the off the field things. And so in this article, Coach Dez, gave high praises to him of how smart he is and the things that he's been able to accomplish in his short time in coaching. He was a graduate of Morgan City High School back in 2018. Let me go back and double check this. So Central Catholic in Morgan City, excuse me. So he graduated from Central Catholic in 2018. He goes and he student coaches at LSU in 2019. And then what was the next years that he was there for? I'm scrolling through the article, so y'all give me just a second. So he was there from 2019 to 2021. So that LSU team that won a national championship, he was there to see that. Once from there, he left, came to UL at 2022. Then he left for a 1-year stint at Buffalo in 2023 and then came back to UL. So in his short time of coaching, He's been around a lot of programs. He's seen what winning can look like. He's seen great, talented teams along the way. And so now he is shifting into that director of player personnel role, which is more of kind of a mediator for the coaching staff. The transfer portal is open now, like I mentioned, and so there are a lot of players that are in the portal, upwards of 6 to 8,000 guys, and so instead of the coaches individually going into the portal and kind of getting lost in the sauce, looking at the portal over and over again, that is Cade's job to look at these guys to say, this person may be a good fit for our scheme. Let's see if we can get in contact with him. Let's hear more about how he is as a player. And then let's try to get him into the building for a visit and hopefully fulfill a need and get a commit. From what I've been told from a lot of conversations that I've had with people close to the program, is that UL is not necessarily focused on just getting guys just to put them in spots and just plug and play and see how it works. They are solely focused on getting guys that will fit their culture first, their scheme second, and then ultimately fits the need that they have lined out for them. So they are not trying to just go, hey, this guy is a 4-star in the portal, he's a 5-star in the portal, or whatever you had, he's the highest ranked in this class here and there. That's not what they're focused on. They're looking for guys that they feel like can fit their culture, that understands what they're trying to build, and then naturally fit into the scheme that they are playing in. So um, like I said, Cade, this is what his primary focus will be now, for him to be the mediator for the coaches and say, hey, here's a list of guys. Let's funnel this list of guys. You evaluate them, look at the film and the tape that they have, and then make the phone calls along the ways to be able to schedule the visits and all of those things. It's a 2-week window. The portal opened on January 2nd. It closes on January 16th, which just means that's the time when guys are able to enter into the transfer portal. However, even after that, guys are able to still take visits and sign different agreements to make sure that they get everything squared away before signing day comes along in February. So the Ragin Cajuns have a list of guys that have publicly made it clear that they have been offered by UL, and I'm going to give you a list of those guys' names right after we take this quick break here on Ragin Rundown. So, like I mentioned before we went to break, UL does have guys that they are targeting, positions that they're looking for as of need. And after kind of just rummaging through social media and finding a couple of the guys posting on their social media platforms, I was able to see what names these guys were, who these guys were. I've reached out to a couple of them to confirm whether they had scheduled a visit with UL or not. And so I'm going to lay that out for you. The main thing that UL is focused on, like I said, is more about the culture thing. But the main thing that they would look to be adding right now is first that outside linebacker position, which is a guy that can put his hand in the ground and also can drop in coverage, very similar to the position that Drennan Fight played in, and also Cameron Whitfield, two guys that you lost, one to the portal and one to graduation. That's a guy, like I said, that can rush the passer, can put his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback, but can also, if asked, can be able to drop into coverage. And the other position is offensive tackle. Jax Harrington had been there for so many years. The ERAF native is now out of eligibility. He's graduated. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, Bryant Williams entered the transfer portal as well. So you would like to have someone there with some experience. The guys that have been publicly identified, that have been offered, and that I have, either reached out to or have tried to get in contact with to figure out information about them, are all defensive players. The two of them are defensive tackles, and they are actually teammates, and the other is an edge player / outside linebacker. The first player is from Harding University, a Division II school in Searcy, Arkansas. And his name is Joseph Ouwayemi. He is a 6'2", 300-pound defensive tackle with 2 years of eligibility. And I'm simply reading from the article that I posted on KATC.com. If you would like to read that, you can find it on KATC.com, or you can see it on my social media platforms as well. Ouwayemi is a Dallas native. He played in 30 games over his 2 seasons there with the Bisons. totaling 41 tackles, 5.5 for loss, and 3.5 sacks on his way to earning first team Great American Conference honors in 2025. Alongside him is his teammate, Nii Addy. I hope I'm pronouncing this young man's name correctly. This is the best that I can find on the pronunciations. But I did get a chance to DM Nii just a little bit, and he told me that he had received his offer and that he is scheduled to visit the Cajuns on Friday, January the 9th. He is a 6'3", 300-pound defensive tackle. He has 2 years of eligibility as well. He totaled 30 tackles, 5.5 for loss in his 2 seasons with the Bisons, and he was a second team Great American Conference honoree this past season. So you've got 2 guys in the middle that you're looking at, and obviously, you lost people like Jalen Kreider to graduation. You still have Fitzgerald West in there, but the UL defensive line, Dennis Thomas, he likes to play multiple guys. So having as many as you can possibly have to be able to rotate in there to have fresh bodies is really, really good. And then the last player that I was able to contact and then also publicly announced that he received an offer from the Ragin Cajuns is North Carolina Central outside linebacker / edge rusher Donquarius Parker. He's 6'1", 240 pounds. He's a redshirt junior. He totaled 41 tackles, 12.5 for loss, and 8 sacks and a safety this past season. And he earned second team MEAC honors. He has 2 years of eligibility. He told me that he will be on campus January 7th and 8th. Now, when you look at these 3 young men named, the first thing that a lot of people will say based on the school that they're coming from is, why could the Cajuns not get guys from G5 level or from a Power 4 school, all of these things like that. And I know in previous episodes I had mentioned about guys from, the G5 level or even the JUCO level. But I want to point back to what this program is focused on, right? They signed a 21-player class for early signing day. They added a couple additional players along the way as well. So it was about 22 to 23 guys that they signed in the early period. So the main thing that they're focused on is recruiting guys that they know how they are in the classroom, the type of young men that they are, because they want people that fit the culture that they are trying to build here in Lafayette. So even in the portal, in today's world, you see a lot of teams that are just trying to build their rosters, simply through the transfer portal. And while you may be able to get the best players, sometimes your culture may not be the best fit. You might have a 99 overall team on the field, but guys don't get along in the locker room. They're questioning the coaching decisions. They don't believe in what they're running. And so UL is, like I mentioned, focused on getting players that understand the culture. And they're also trying to work their way into continuing to build this culture. Obviously, you've had 3, 6, and 7 seasons over the last 4 years. And then you had your 10-win season where you reached the Sun Belt Championship and hosted it against Marshall. Harding University, as a Division II program, if I remember correctly, let me go back and look at their schedule. They went 15-1 this season. And in 2024, they went 12-2. So these young men in the 2 seasons that they've been playing at the collegiate level have lost 3 games and won 27. How do you have a winning program? You have to recruit guys that have been in winning programs, whether that's at the high school level or in the transfer portal. Just because it might be the best guy, so to speak, does not always mean it's going to be the best fit. Sometimes you have to go and get guys that may be at a different level or that may be, within the conference, but they understand what it takes to win and that they can come in and understand what you're trying to build. And I think that's what Coach Desimo, Caden Minton, and company are trying to work together to find. And then also, like I said, Donquarius Parker is another young man. He's been there at NC Central for the past few seasons. And for them, they went 8-4 this past season. In 2024, they went 8-3. In 2023, they went 9-3. So once again, getting talented players sometimes isn't always the best situation. Sometimes you need to go and get guys that have been around winning. They know what it looks like, they know what it smells like, they know what it tastes like, so you can be able to let some of that rub off on some of your players. Obviously, the guys that are on this Ragin Cajuns roster, they've worked hard. They know what it took to battle back from being down, being 2-6 in 2025 and rattling off 4 wins to get that 13th game in the 68 Ventures Bowl. But maybe they need somebody else that can come in and blend with some of the culture that they have to say, hey guys, like y'all were able to rattle those victories off, but ultimately we don't want to be in that position to begin with. Let's put our heads down and make sure that we have a great start at the beginning of the year. So when we get to November, we're not trying to rattle off 4 straight wins to be able to play in the 68 Ventures Bowl in December. Not a knock to the 68 Ventures Bowl. The people that put that bowl game on were phenomenal, great people. But ultimately, what you're in this profession for is to win championships, to win conference championships, to compete for national championships, and then New Year's Six, big bowl games, all of those things like that. You want to continue to put your program in the highest ranking positions as possible. And like I said, the only way that you're able to do that is by getting the right players inside of your building. Like I mentioned, offensive tackle, outside linebacker is the main focus that these guys are having. And then from there, it's kind of as needed or guys, again, that are the best fit for them. So the 2 main positions that you're looking at is tackle and outside linebacker. If there are other players that come along the way, I'll continue to update you either through my social media, through KATC, where I do the primary basis of my work through TV. You'll be able to be updated on that. So there's 2 blogs on KTC.com. Obviously, the one showcasing the players that have entered the portal and are leaving UL, and then also guys that are trying to potentially make UL their next home. So it'll be interesting to see. I do believe that UL is going to build this roster, rebuild this roster, and can be right back in position to potentially make a run in 2026. They have a lot of guys returning, only losing 7 to the portal, but they're still doing work here in the second part of the offseason. That's going to wrap up this episode of Ragin Rundown. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment, give me some of your thoughts, and then share it with somebody else so they can know what's going on with the Ragin Cajuns. If you're listening, leave us a review, and also follow the podcast feed wherever you're listening to your favorite podcast so you know when we're dropping episodes here on Ragin Rundown. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time.